My name is Chris Day. I'm with Civil Design Concepts here in Asheville. I'm a civil engineer by trade. Have had the opportunity to work on a lot of projects in Asheville, Buncombe County, but more specifically in the downtown area. Those projects have a lot of interesting challenges as there's different layers of our history have continued to kind of build and grow and change. And I want to just kind of start this meeting to kind of set the framework for sort of what it is. This is it's a required meeting. While I've worked in this industry for 20 years now, these meetings have happened when they're voluntary. They happen periodically. The city saw the importance of these meetings, and within the last couple of years, they have taken larger projects and they have required this front end meeting. And this meeting it's on the very front end of the project. So they require this meeting to occur before we can even make a submittal to the city. That being said, as a design professional working in Asheville, I very much appreciate these meetings. It's these meetings that do a great job of kind of conveying to the public what's going on. Our city of Asheville is growing. It's been growing for a long time, and in the past there were periods of that where it kind of grew, and people that weren't in the know didn't know what was happening until it was in front of city council. And this process that the city has implemented has changed all that. It takes the project at the conceptual stage, it introduces it to the public, to the people that are around the project, and then so my goal today is to do that, but then also to tell you what the steps that the project moves forward with to reach approval. The project is our local landmark, the Flatiron building, and the project is proposed as a conditional zoning. So a conditional zoning project has to go all the way through city council for approval. So as I made reference, this is the first step in that process, and it's got a long road to go. But I really appreciate everyone for coming out today to hear about the project and to provide input as we move forward. That being said, I'd like to start by introducing the steward of this property for over 30 years, Russell Thomas. I'd like to have him come up and introduce himself.
All right. I've been downtown for 30 some years and basically have taken care of the building. It is my building. I've been there it's very important to me to make sure it was all historic. Every single thing that's been done in that building has been 100% historic. As time goes on, and we have had situations where the government, state of North Carolina, required us to add an extra set of stairs, which we had to actually sell off parts of the building to do that. And so our situation is that the building is 92 years old now, and we have a set of older elevators that are in there, which we love and are working great, and the building is 100% compliant at this moment. But we would like to be able to not let it become obsolete and that it becomes, the old girl on the block and rents become, there's other places that you can't get the rents. At this point, we're getting good rents. We feel really as good as, we understand as good as most any Class A place because we have a smaller group. But the fact is, we need to do some upgrades that are going to be coming up. The building is a unique landmark. The landmark is that it's triangular shaped. The fact that it's triangle shaped means that the thing is basically half of a building. If you took the Flatiron and turned and mirrored it and flipped it, you'd have a full size building. The efficiencies would be better. At this point, we have elevators, stairs, and hallways that would support a whole building, but we've had to put it into the Flatiron building because it's only half. We have a large displacement of common area, and our net is very low. As we end up changing things, and we need to get some kind of an EMT approved elevator, which is just a safety concern, which is on the horizon, that we're going to have to do some other things. Those things are going to require that we take more space out of the net that is already out of a bad way, and we're basically creating a situation where affordable, and really because I'm getting full rates for the building, anybody who's renting the office space does not, unfortunately, support a building that's shaped as a triangle and is only half of a building and needs another elevator. The ratio of net is not good enough at the current rates to actually be able to support what we have to do to keep it from going into this. So we're trying to think forward. We're trying to come up with solutions. Obviously, downtown is a great place. We are a big part of it. We have no intentions of changing that, and we want to keep it historic. I've found a JV partner, person who's going to join up with us. He's going to help us. They are going to help us as a team and help us make sure that elevators stay where they are, lobbies stay, doorways as they are, same wood, same everything stays where it is, exterior exactly as it is. Only thing in our overall thought is, and I understand that there's a bad rub on the whole what our use we would like to do is, but I just want you to know that we are a unique environment. We are not a tear down, that you're going to put up a building that may look less like downtown should have looked. We are a historic building. We want to have people understand we need support in making sure the building can be restored. That's all I'm going to say. I appreciate it. I've got some other folks. They're going to try and tell you what we're thinking in the event we can get this taken the way we want, get the change of use. This is what we have to plan, and I guess that's it. Thank you for your time. Thanks for coming out.
I'll add one more thing. We're going to kind of try and do like a super quick kind of overview of the project, and then we'll take questions. My main goal for this meeting is to get your input, and so I want to get through this first part in an overview quickly so that we can then do that on the back half. As Russell made reference, preservation was his goal for the future and for this project and this building to live on. And he made reference to his JV partner, which I'll introduce, is Philip Wolcott, and I'll give you a little bit of his background in preserving historical structures.
Good evening. My name is Philip Wolcott. I'm a native of Asheville. Growing up here in the 70s, coming downtown as a kid, towards the late 70s, early 80s, I saw downtown Asheville going through this difficult time with lots of boarded up buildings and properties just in disrepair and not much life. My father was running the original Bank of Asheville over there, located at 68 Patton Avenue at the time, and he used to come here to the Flatiron and get his hair cut on the ground floor. And I remember coming down here as a kid and going through that, the Grove Arcade, and just sort of being in awe of these really interesting, iconic downtown properties. After college, I moved to Charleston, South Carolina, where I got into historic preservation redevelopment, or as we call it, adaptive reuse, and learned from some of the very best in a city that prides itself on historic renovations and preservations. And after 20 years in that city and enjoying a good career there, I've been looking for just the right project to bring me back to Asheville. And towards the first part of this year, I noticed the Flatiron building came on the market. Picked up the phone, called Mike Bryant, the broker, and I was up here within 24 hours on the rooftop with Russell Thomas, having a very in-depth discussion, hearing about his passion for the building, what he had been, what the building had meant to him for 34 years, and what it meant to him to see it restored and to pass the torch to a group that was going to preserve the building and carry it forward for the next generations to enjoy. Through that conversation, we came to terms on a contract and are moving forward with this due diligence. And in renovating old historic buildings and communities, obviously it is so important to activate the community, get their involvement, get their input. That's always been resonated with me very personally. These are obviously buildings that mean the world to the community, and it's very important to get their input. So I appreciate, first and foremost, everybody taking the time out of their busy schedule and coming out to express that. The Flatiron is a unique building. It's an iconic building. We have spent months analyzing how do you restore this building to National Historic Preservation Tax Credit guidelines, and at the the same time be as sensitive to the historic nature of the building, but put in place a business model that sustains those renovations, but also gives the building a working business model to carry it forward for generations to come. And we've looked at all different uses, residential, retail, office, lodging, and at this point, we have determined that in order to renovate the building to its original glories and give it the sustainability to maintain its iconic downtown historic nature, we've got a conditional zoning use that we are going to pursue. The benefit of an adaptive reuse project is it's the most sensitive reuse of the building. It's preserving all the hallways, all the terracotta floors, all the doorways. We're able to go in there with minimal renovations in terms of disruption to the historic nature of the building and do an adaptive reuse for our proposed use. So in closing, I appreciate everybody's time coming out and look forward to hearing y'all's comments this evening. Thank you.
I'm gonna dim the lights here in the middle so that we can see the screen a little bit better. Very dramatic. All right, so this is a great shot of this this beautiful landmark that we're all here to talk about. The building as it stands here at Battery Park Avenue and is bordered on Wall Street, which is a does allow vehicular access, but it is one way, and it's one way as you head towards the east and towards the north. As you tie in here, Battery Park Avenue is two-way here, but as you come out here, it's actually only one way as you go towards the Grove Arcade. That pavement area is rather wide today, so while I'll step back slightly as Philip made reference in terms of historic restoration of the building, that is by and large the project. It is preserving this building and doing it to these national park standards. That being said, there are some site improvements that are being proposed, and that kind of dictates some of and that's what I want to walk you through to begin with. As you're familiar with the site, as you come, this is Wall Street that you're coming out of here, and it's wrapping around to go west on Battery Park Avenue. This is the stretch of road that is currently well in excess. A typical one-way road is only 14 feet wide, and we've got greater than 25 feet of pavement through here. And if you live in the area, you'll recognize that very often delivery trucks and things like that just stop right in the middle of the road. There's no intentionality on where a loading zone is or anything. And so we're doing our plans. The concepts I'm going to show you right here have a couple of objectives. One is to pull that in and take what's currently a very pedestrian-oriented area that sort of spills out into the road often, especially when we've got buskers and entertainers in the area, but find a way to try and take this space. We've got a little bit of pedestrian space here, and if you're familiar, there's a few cafe tables through here that get well utilized. We're looking at, this is how it is today, where you come out of Wall Street. We're looking at actually taking and potentially taking out some of this pull-out parking that that lives on Battery Park Avenue now, and more mimicking what's happening across the street with straight parallel parking spaces. In this scenario, we've got a couple of parallel spaces with a handicap, as well as a clearly marked loading zone. That loading zone would be for the entire block and businesses. The city does not restrict those for any one use. And the intention there would be for it to provide that service as well as be a place for hotel patrons to pull up, or cabs or Ubers or whatever else is happening along this corridor. in this scenario, this is the existing sidewalk, so the existing sidewalk width is here. We're to bump that out. And another scenario we were looking at that kind of even maximized that a little bit further was to really only provide a loading zone and maybe a handicap accessible spot and provide even more. As I said, this is the first step in the process. Everything is conceptual, so we're still talking with city staff, technical staff, and really trying to kind of work out what that looks like. The one thing I will point out, in either one of these scenarios, we were intentional about saving enough space between here and the existing parallel parking spaces on the other side of the street to have the one-way road, but then we've saved enough for a potential bike lane on the climbing, on the upper side, the north side of the property. Kind of our thoughts on that, and this is something that I threw in, and just because as I try to visualize what this looks like, it's the first thing that pops into my mind is right up the street at the Grove Arcade, where you have more scenarios for people to be, I mean, these people are crossing the street in a defined area, but you've got places for pedestrians to gather as you're coming out of Wall Street and separate out the vehicles. So the dining, the wider sidewalks, and things like that are kind of what, as we've been playing with concepts on that streetscape, what we were thinking of. Now, one question that's come up a lot, as you saw in that previous slide, there's currently 6 parking spaces, 6 spaces that you have to back out into traffic onto. The scenarios that I've showed you here provide either basically 1 or 1 to 3 spaces there. And so what we were looking at is really just the idea of, we recognize that we need parking. You know, in a brand new hotel project in the central business district will be required to put parking inside of the building. This building, with the project as it's proposed, we're not, you know, it's not feasible with the building being an existing landmark and as is. So at this point, here's our project here. This is the new Buncombe County parking deck that we've already reserved some spaces in. I'll also highlight the Rankin and the Wall Street decks. While those decks are very full during the day, in the evening times, historically, or statistically, over the data that the city has, there is somewhere north of 90 spaces often available, or 90 spaces available after, I think, 6 o'clock is the current stats. So it's our goal, all hotel patrons here would be valet parked, and the valet will have to be physically fit and do some running, but it would all be managed with by the hotel use for that, and in those spaces. That's kind of where, you know, the other aspects as the civil engineer, in this restoration, the building's currently not sprinkled, so I get the opportunity to bring a new water line into the building and sprinkle the building. And then everything else really is kind of internal. And by and large, you know, here's the historic photo of the building. The restoration will it'll be what you see out there today. As I understand it, the awnings that are out there today, those are not historical and will be removed. But everything else, as Philip made reference, there's incredible guidelines, national historic guidelines that have to be followed with this preservation. That includes kind of adjusting some of the storefronts along the ground floor and along the pedestrian area. That occurs on all sides. So here's another photo of where the World Coffee Cafe is. That storefront, as I understand it, is most resembles the historical nature, and the other doorways will be restored back to that standard. And then, as Philip made reference, we are fortunate that we actually have the historic drawings, which are incredible to look at, that were the this building was built in the 20s. And as Russell and Philip both made reference, the historic elevators, those will stay. There will be a new elevator added to the building to provide emergency services and meet current codes. But much of what you see, exterior of the building, interior of the building, hallways, doors, things like that, the building remains historic and as is. So from the, I'm joined here with Philip to answer any questions, and right now I'm also this meeting and your comments are being recorded. So for as we will take and make kind of a summary, high-level summary of your comments, and those comments will follow the project forward as it gets submitted to the city, and furthermore, and so that recording will also be available to the public. As I made reference, I'm going to turn the lights on real quick. As I made reference, this project, this is the very first step in the process. The next steps will be to submit conceptual drawings to the technical review committee with the city. That consists of water, fire, addressing, building safety, zoning, and they kind of look at it on a high level. This process also has to go through historic resources, HRC. Because we're proposing the sidewalk improvements, those go to the Downtown Commission. The Downtown Commission is a board that typically looks at architectural standards. With this one being historic, they would only be looking at the sidewalk and streetscape improvements. It then would go to planning and zoning and city council, ultimately. Many of those that I made reference to are public hearings with public input. The current anticipated schedule is TRC submittal later this month, which will put it at a downtown commission in a TRC meeting and downtown commission meeting in December, with P&Z and city council in January. So with that being said, I would like to open it up for comments. I do want to say that that we've got about a half hour before we've got to get out of the room. I feel like I want to try and keep all the comments. I don't want to repeat the same comments over and over, so if we can take your information in, and if you have a question or comment, take that in. So, yes, sir.
My name is Casey Campfield, and I own a bar in Lexington, downtown. First of all, I'd like to mention that earlier you touted the values of these neighborhood meetings as a way for vested parties to get together and talk about this project. I spoke to several tenants that rent in the Flatiron building, and none of them were given a notice of this meeting. So I'm not sure what neighborhood you're referencing, if not the people that actually occupy the building. I think a simple.
Every single one was given a notice.
It's not your turn to speak, sir. You wait. You already had your turn to speak. It's my turn now. He called on me. Yeah, but he doesn't need to cut me out. Is it my turn to speak now?
Casey, please continue. And I would like to
I have
say,
spoken to several tenants. They told me they got no notice of this. One of them is the accountant for my bar. Another person does massage work for employees at my bar. These are people who have paid their rent on time. They did not give a notice. That being said, I'm not really clear on what the new proposed occupant of this building is going to be. It was really not clear. You talked about awnings and parking spaces, but I would like to know, is this going to be a hotel? Is this going to be for short-term rentals? Can we get some clarification on what's going into this building?
yes. So those are great questions, Casey. I appreciate it. And while I would like to kind of go through the room and get a lot of the questions, those being what Casey brought up, I want to go ahead and speak to, because I apologize that in all the hoopla and everything I mentioned, I didn't clarify the programming. So the current programming for the building would be that the ground floor would be a restaurant space as well as the lobby. I did make reference to the dining outside. That would be an accessory to retail or restaurant space on the ground floor. There is currently a boiler room in the basement that would be repurposed for potentially a bar type speakeasy area. floor up, that would be repurposed into, right now the count is 80 hotel rooms. So, I will say, as it relates to notification concerns, we did post, per the city requirements, we did post the site, and we mailed out 411 letters of the notification. I will say that we got a lot of them back. A lot of the addressing and the systems, the spreadsheet that gets sent out, some of them, they come through the paper tax records, and some of them get returned. So that's one of the reasons that we actually post the site as well, so that to kind of cover.
He has their addresses, they're in the building.
I understand, and
They're tenants of the building, and in their office spaces, they did not receive them.
I appreciate your comments, and I'll move on to, yes, ma'am.
I live on the Battery Road. I have to tell you, I watch the traffic all the time. I enjoy watching the traffic. I enjoy watching the buskers. And what I see in that traffic is 3 lanes 90% of the week. On the weekend, you don't have the trucks delivering, but we're delivering 2 trucks at a time across that road. I don't know where you're gonna put them, because they're not single lane, they're double lane, and then traffic tries to get through. Then you add parallel parking, 90% of us can't parallel park, so that's gonna take up 50 minutes right there. And even now, I see people drive around and around because the parking garage at the end of the street is full all weekend. Now, if these people are gonna park only during the night, how do they park their car during the day? I mean, do they gonna take up all the parking spaces? Because nighttime is when they're sleeping, but they arrived at noon, and they're gonna stay all weekend, and they're not gonna move their car. So I think the whole parking issue and the street issue is really a problem that hasn't been addressed adequately. You have not studied that parking and the trucks that are parked there during the day, loading, unloading. Today I went out just to get a UPS package and talked to the UPS driver. It was full all the way across. So you're not looking at it at the right time of day. And you need to spend a day overlooking that street and watching what's happening, because you're not making it.
I appreciate your input.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I also am a homeowner on 21 Battery Park, and I know it's a priority of our downtown council and the staff to have livable neighborhoods and support local businesses are 2 of our city's main priorities. And I have never heard anyone say that a livable neighborhood is a neighborhood with a few homes and all of the rest hotels. To me, what makes a livable neighborhood is a local coffee shop, might even be lucky and have great desserts like World Coffee, maybe a nice local restaurant where you can pick up your dinner, like Chai Pani, maybe somewhere to get your hair cut. All of these things are now part of our neighborhood. Supporting local business, that's a main priority of our community. And to put out 80 local businesses out on the street so that we can have more tourists, I think it's a misuse of our neighborhood.
Thank you for your input. Yes, sir. And then
Why, and I don't know necessarily this would help the parking problem, but it certainly would help the residential side of it. So why can't this be purposed for condos? For people who actually want to live in the city?
So, I can have, they're basically, from my perspective, I have to defer that over to Philip. In terms of, I know that he and Russell spoke a little bit about the economics of what has to happen. I know from code issues, there's a lot of improvement that has to happen to this building. So those things, as Russell made reference, are expensive. We can continue that, we can continue with some of the conversations and questions. And then what I'd like to do is kind of take a sweep through the room of the comments and then kind of come back and sort of address these items that we have time to address tonight. But I want to make sure that we have time for everyone to be able to speak their opinion Ma'am, I'll get to you next, but ma'am, you had your hand up.
So I live across the street too. So I don't think there's anyone here who wants to see the Flatiron building fall into ruin, or Russell's letter sort of made it sound like this project doesn't work, the building could be flattened. I mean, obviously that's not anything anyone wants to see. But again, addressing goals of the city and having a sustainable community, we need the kind of jobs that that will be able to pay the employees a good wage. It seems like 80 business people might be a better idea for a healthy economy than, possibly more employees, but many of them not making a wage that can sustain them.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Catherine Shane, and I'm a tenant at the Flatiron Building, and I know that I and other tenants were not notified of this meeting. We kind of heard a couple of rumors about a November 1st meeting in Scranton, and that library didn't know anything about it. You did call this, you didn't mention hotel, but you did name this project as a renovation. Like this is you said something like this is basically a building renovation. I mean, it's clear that you're aware and develop, whatever, that this is not a good thing for us as city residents. I don't know a single Ashevillean that wants to continue to live in the shadow of more and more hotels and lose more and more of our downtown. Let's see, I know that many more residents would be here. I was walking my dog, I happened to check my email and flew right over here. We've informed, when tenants had a meeting, we invited Russell, and I guess, gosh, you meant, one of the first things you said is Asheville's growing. Well, it's shrinking as far as livability. Okay, so it's growing for the tourist industry, and it's shrinking for the people who actually live here and invest in here. It is affordable office space. We pay taxes. I have been frightening, looking around, and there just is not affordable office space available in the Asheville area. So you are pushing us out.
Thank you for your comment, Catherine. Yes, sir.
So, my name is Jeff Robbins, and I'm the president of the 21 Battery Park Condo Association. And you did give us an opportunity to meet with you and listen to kind of what you were trying to do, and we provided feedback. I'm a little disappointed. And it's been almost a month. If I were going to characterize this project in trying to save the Flatiron building, I think you're going to destroy the community. And I'm not sure the Flatiron is really that important in terms of trying to save the community that people are really trying to build here. And the two major things that we discussed, one was parking and congestion, and the need that already as someone's already pointed out, the congestion that exists and having people park in a loading zone, very limited, okay, and then requiring a valet running back and forth. I don't know how many valets you need, but I know that at the Haywood Park Hotel, they have 3 valets, and there's still a huge pile of cars that pull up there during the time. And so the impact that you're going to have from a parking and congestion is considerable, and you really haven't addressed it at all. The second, and I think it's even more important, is hotels really cannot, where the downtown is suffering from the infrastructure abuse that all the tourists have on the downtown. And there's nothing that's really going to go in there from a hotel standpoint, that's not gonna continue to accelerate the deterioration of our infrastructure. Now, that's not really your problem, but I think that's part of the big concern in terms of having a hotel who, with visitors who really don't care about our town, who don't care about the littering that goes on and all the destruction and so forth, okay? And so the city is struggling to try to find ways to, support and build back the infrastructure. But building another hotel just to try to save a building just doesn't make sense.
I appreciate it, Jeff. And and yes, it's besides the neighborhood the meeting that we're having right now, there have been a couple other smaller meetings as we've looked to reach out in different directions to not only get the community around the building, but other DARN, which is the Downtown Residents Group, and different groups to try and get input. And Jeff, you brought up a point. At this point, all of this has been in a gathering mode, and we wanted to come into this meeting with the community to understand that we're still in that gathering mode and that we haven't.
But see, what worries me is, then we really have no idea what you're gonna be presenting down the line.
Well,
And it would be much better to be able to have a really good understanding of what you're doing based off of the feedback that you've already got. And as I said, you talked and you said, you're aware of parking issues. I don't see anything in your plan that really addresses, at this time, okay, parking and the congestion that is gonna ensue.
understood. Thank you for your comment. And what I want to make sure that as we leave here, everyone understands what these public meetings that will occur in front of the public officials, where we will be taking these comments in, and any modifications to the plans will be presented to the city. We want to, it's kind of a fine line. I come into these initial meetings and people really want to know all the little details and have everything worked out, but at the end of the day, there's also the flip side where we want to come in here where we're still a little bit of an open canvas to take input and be able to.
I understand, and I really do appreciate all of you making this available. Okay.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I own a business across the street at 21 Battery Park and definitely didn't receive any notification of this, or the other retail owners, across the street there in Flatiron. And you weren't very clear about what's gonna happen to those businesses, so that's one question. If they'll be completely displaced by the restaurant you're proposing, or, if those businesses are gonna still have their space. And as far as the businesses upstairs, I do think that it is gonna affect the economy of Asheville. I mean, those business owners go and eat in the restaurants downtown and shop and keep the whole economy thriving. And, I'm new here to Asheville, but I'm already seeing and talking to people about how to keep Asheville thriving and not kill the thing that the tourists are coming here for. So, I don't know if that's, your issue per se, but something that hopefully the council will think about. But, my question is, you mentioned a ballet, but where is the parking gonna be?
So, the primary takeaway with the ballet is to know that the tenants of the hotel itself will manage where they park. And at this point, as you're aware of where this building's located, it's a few blocks to get to any type of parking. They have secured parking, as I made reference, in the new county deck. There's actually availability, and they've secured parking over there. That in itself, they're not looking for their patrons to park and walk up to there. That's where the valet service would come in. But I appreciate your comments, as well as you informing me that you did not receive the notification as well.
And so would the other businesses,
Oh, yes. So the question about the businesses, the entire building has to be somewhat it's not gutted. Well, it is.
Just say
Say it.
Yes, you cannot remain in that space with the
The downstairs,
improvements.
the retail.
The downstairs retail, yes, ma'am. The retail, the entire building has to be brought up, has to be improved. And that will remove the existing tenants that are in that retail space on the ground floor. Yes, ma'am.
Having a lot more people and a lot more traffic in the downtown area, which I'm happy with the street performers at Asheville buses. It's gonna increase a lot of traffic around Wall Street. There's already a lot of people walking in the middle of Wall Street, there's already a lot of near misses. In conjunction with the extra feet that are gonna be on the sidewalk, this is gonna create a big problem for one of our only two street performance spots that are big enough to hold the crowd. So are you planning on talking to business owners on Wall Street about shutting down Wall Street for pedestrian only to compensate for this and save our street performance, or are you just gonna,
So,
how are we gonna fix it?
from our standpoint, we're in conversations with city transportation. A couple of the concepts that I showed up here earlier was a goal to take that sidewalk and double or triple the size of it along the sides of the Flatiron to improve more pedestrian space.
Not the Flatiron building, I'm talking about that corner, we play next to the Flatiron sculpture. And the traffic that you bring is gonna create issues there. I don't see any compensations for the issues that you're gonna create for us. We only have two spots that are large enough to get our crowd without creating bumps in the street. This is gonna make this spot impossible for us to play at anymore. Because there's gonna be people honking, trying to get down that street. There's already people walking in the middle of Wall Street that, and it's already like near misses all the time, and especially at night. Kids running in the middle of it. This is gonna be a big problem.
Thank you
And
for
the
your
street
input.
performers are one of the things that make Asheville unique and draw people in here.
Yes, sir.
What is your, I know you have to go through all the process and do all the permits and everything else. What is kind of your hope for timeframe to begin renovations?
So,
And then that question is because the 80 or so business people, all the people that work in there need to find their lives to deal with that.
I'm gonna mark that one down and ask for Philip to speak to that as we come together. From my standpoint, just regulatory wise and city process wise, all of the 4 or 5 meetings, the public hearings that I made reference to, this has to go through, the last one being city council. That is really a city council meeting to approve the overarching idea of the project and the concept of the project. Then detailed drawings have to be submitted in and go through city permits and so forth. So that process alone takes a few more months. So just from the regulatory side, we're looking at sometime in the spring of next year. But at the end of the day, that's where if everything else was a green light, that's as fast as myself as a design professional can get through the city system. I'll let Philip speak when he gets up to talk about the condos as well.
Thank you.
About his actual time frame, that'll be more dictated by finances and so forth.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Marcy and Tom Gallagher, we own Kilwins, a couple doors down. And, we've enjoyed a great relationship with Russell over the years. But I do want to address the situation, with the trucks coming through, and I think there was a lady who talked about that. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
So I appreciate your input. And while I made reference that we were looking to reduce that pavement, the intentional, it would be, first of all these are concepts and they'll all have to be reviewed and approved by city staff that kind of specialize in all the different aspects. But the intention there would be to reduce it down so that it's not kind of the wide open free-for-all that it sort of seems to be out there, as the lady made reference that there's sometimes 2 to 3 trucks side by side out there. It would not be to restrict trucks from being able to come through there. The intention would be that it would be in more of an orderly fashion. But as I said, we're in the concepts and still need to flush that out.
The 2 or 3 trucks are necessary.
That was the point.
I mean, that's my whole point. They are delivering full-time on that street.
Absolutely.
2, 3, and then cars at the side. And I've seen cars have to wait on trucks. I'm not knocking the trucks, I'm supporting the trucks.
Thank you, ma'am.
But you can't cut out any of that street space, I can tell you that.
And the trolley goes through there as well.
And
stops. Yeah.
Electric scooters.
Yes, sir. And then you after him. He had his hand up a few minutes ago. You, sir.
Okay. It's obvious there's gonna be some displacement of existing businesses in the building. Are you anticipating any relocation assistance at all for these displaced tenants?
I will mark that as well for Philip to speak to. And we've got just a few more to go around, and then I'll ask Philip to get up and speak to these items that come up. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to speak to how tired we all are of watching hotels go up in Asheville. I mean, you've hit us at a terrible time. It's not like this is a really bad idea or anything, but man, what a terrible time for this idea. We've watched hotel after hotel after hotel go up, and we're not even done yet. BB&T building's not done. They just broke ground on Merriman Avenue. We get to watch even more go up. So the idea of one more stinking hotel, even if it's a beautiful historic restoration, is anathema to all of us.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name's Jack Thompson. I'm the director of the Preservation Society. I've got a few notes to hopefully help me keep from rambling on. We talked, I think everybody in the room knows that this is a building that's listed on the National Register, so it's recognized by the Department of the Interior and the National Park Service. It's a designated local landmark, which makes it one of 47 buildings in Buncombe County to achieve that designation. And to a degree, that protects the building, but it doesn't permanently protect it from a demolition threat, should that ever come. Really, the only way to do that is through what's known as a preservation easement. It's similar to a conservation easement. We are glad to announce that in the last 3 years, we've been able to permanently protect many buildings in downtown Asheville using these easements. So that's always an option for any owner. So any owner of historic buildings in downtown want to see us, we'll be talking about how to preserve them. We know the Flatiron building contributes mightily to the public realm and is an architectural icon. In the Preservation Society, we're focused on supporting the sustainable use of the property, regardless of who the owner is. It's an important place that does need good stewardship. It's getting a little rough around the edges. Regardless of what the use, a sustainable steward is necessary. Multiple factors contribute to the sense of place that we as the Preservation Society work to protect, including the aesthetic beauty of historic architecture and the connections that people make to those icons. The Flatiron building certainly fits those criteria, making proposed changes to probably take much interest, right? How can we preserve a place and its importance to the community, all while managing change and growth? That's what we're about. We're not against change, but we are for managed change that incorporates the protection of historic property. We believe that adaptive reuse does speak to the resiliency of historic buildings. History can be saved while supporting the prosperity of our community. And in times of change, we are thankful that for those who ensure it's done in a thoughtful way. It's not to say what would be the best use of the Flatiron moving forward for generations from now. Asheville that serve as housing. We've got historic buildings that were not originally designed as hotels that support our city officials and the community in the difficult decisions that will be made, and in the long term, we will work with whoever owns the Flatiron building to ensure that it's cared for in its best possible way. Thank you for the opportunity.
Mostly about repairs, I'm hearing two things. It is currently 100% compliant, and that it is full of tenants. And then I'm hearing that the future disrepair is so extreme that we must move from some kind of $50,000 to $100,000 a month income to like a $500,000 a month income. Are the repairs that large? I mean, will we know the cost of these repairs? Are they in the many, many millions that this is a financial must? I'm not really seeing that evidence.
And I'll step in on what I know. I'm, as I made reference, I'm a civil engineer, and I'm the guy that gets to bring sewer and water lines to projects, but also deal with zoning, which is kind of what puts me up here with in front of all of you guys. As it relates to the building itself, it's kind of out of my world, and I'm going to ask Philip to kind of speak high level to that as well. I do know from my meetings with the city that we are bringing a new fire line to the building because it is currently not sprinkled, and that was something that, while I believe it wasn't required when it was built and things like that, and then there's certain components of things that can remain as is. The aspect of when a property is improved significantly, there's upgrades that get kicked in, and one of those is this sprinkler system and fire, which I know is very expensive. I've marked that down as well. We're running short on time. I wanted to make sure there weren't any other comments before I ask Philip to come up and speak to the timing of when the project would start, the cost, the significant cost of repairs, the relocation aspects of the tenants in there, relocation assistance, as well as the conversation, which kind of ties maybe into some of this stuff, the question about condos, the use of condos here. Was there anything else from this? Yes, sir.
Just real quickly, if you put that patio and you out on right there at Haywood Street and Battery Park, I'm very, very concerned you're going to create a traffic bottleneck there. And with the trolley parking mid-street several times a day at that very location, you're simply not going to have any traffic flow if you reduce that to one lane at that location, which I think some pictures show. The other thing is 6 parking spots may not seem like a lot, but it is. We need to have parking along the street, and removing the 6 parking spots is going to cause a difficulty for the merchants who are currently on that street.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Obviously, there's been an analysis of like potential new uses for the building. It seems that the hotel has won in that analysis. What was runner-up? What happens if this process ultimately does not, council was not persuaded and asks you to go to your plan B? What is plan B?
Good question. I'm going to work that over. It might be the perfect segue.
Just to piggyback on the historic tax credits and things, so my understanding, I could be wrong about this, is that this is a voluntary program to apply for historic tax credits. So to say we want to preserve the building does not mean you have to go through that process, which that process triggers more items, right? So if we're going to address the cost of the building in the tax credit program, I'd love some input on that.
Gotcha. And then, as you made reference, I guess that is a voluntary aspect. As Mr. Thompson made reference, I guess easements that other buildings have done is something that's more of, well, I guess that's voluntary as well, but it's something that creates more of a permanent situation. With that said, Philip, do you mind speaking to a few of these items?
Hopefully balance.
When to start,
Great comments, thank you. Timeline, obviously, we're said, we're very early on in this process. I think a best case scenario with council approval being in January, finalizing our construction drawings, negotiating with a local general contractor, I would say you're looking at a start date probably sometime late spring, early summer at the earliest of next year. It's been brought up regarding the existing businesses. Again, this is paramount in our redevelopment approach to this project, is dealing with the existing small businesses. It's a very sensitive subject, we realize that. Most of these businesses in this building are on a month-to-month lease or a short-term lease. This is by no means people in here with 5, 10 years left on the lease, and some evil developers coming to town to try to move people out of their place of business and go against what they already have in place in terms of a leasehold interest. So with that being said, we are very sensitive to helping these tenants find an alternative location. We have been working with several local commercial real estate brokers in this market that specialize in small business leasing. And they have identified other locations in downtown that are available, some very close to the existing Flatiron space that are in now. So we are going to be offering a tenant relocation assistance letter that we can have out to the existing tenants here in short order. That will give them some detailed contact information of some of these local brokers that they can contact and be shown some alternative spaces that they can start to look at. Again, we want to make sure this is as smooth of a transition as possible. We're very sensitive to that. So, excuse me, that's something that's going to be forthcoming with some information with some local brokers. I will say, having personally been involved in these meetings with the local brokers as well as some other property owners in downtown Asheville, there are some alternatives out there. So that's time.
Kind of condos and
Condos, yes, good question. In analyzing uses for this building, obviously it's been an office building. It's been a retail space on the ground floor. We have looked at residential. I think, as Ms. Turner said, this historic tax credit, it is voluntary, but we feel like to restore this building to its original glory and preserve it for generations to come, we're going to have to spend a lot of money. And it's not a couple $100,000, it's millions of dollars. And we want to do that because several reasons. One, we want to preserve it. I think it's an iconic local landmark that needs to be preserved. As Mr. Thompson brought up, we are speaking with them regarding a preservation easement to protect this iconic building for generations to come. And in order to do that, you need to restore it and put in place a business model that sustains it going forward. Residential condos, to make the numbers work, which isn't, it's important. This is business. We've got an iconic building here that needs a lot of work to be done. I'm not in the business. I'm an opportunistic preservationist. That is, I am looking for how do we preserve this building and at the same time give it a business model that sustains it going forward. To do high-end residential condos, which they would have to be. They would have to be very expensive condos. They would most likely be second or third places that people would live in, so they would be here maybe half the year. And for the most part, the building would be dark. It would be unactivated. What we're proposing is it would be activated, it would be enjoyed by the public, not just tourists. It would be the locals. People would be able to go there and dine. People would be able to go to the rooftop, have friends come in town, stay, go join them for a drink, watch the sunset. This is, to turn it into a high-end residential condo, it doesn't make sense economically, but I just don't think that's the vision for this building going forward. It needs to be active and be enjoyed by not only tourists, people that come to Asheville, that come to enjoy all about Asheville. People don't come to Asheville just to stay in a hotel. It's about going around and seeing all the local merchants, eating in the fine restaurants, enjoying the outdoors, everything Asheville is. And I think there's a unique opportunity here to really, in my mind, do one of the first historic, true Asheville hotels that is really defining of what we have here, which is an incredible city, Asheville. I'm sort of getting off a little bit.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but did you crunch the numbers for the condos and what they would likely sell for?
It would be a very high number. I'd say it would probably be in the vicinity of what they're doing with the BB&T building.
Which was?
So probably you're looking at north of $650 a square foot, maybe 700.
All right, thank you.
Just one more thing while I'm on the condo. The other thing is the configuration, like Russell brought up early on about the configuration of this building. It is a unique shape, triangle shape, and it is not, doesn't lay itself out very well for a residential condo unit, which is it's important with marketing condos. I mean, it's a little funky, it's a little edgy, it's a little eclectic, but for the lodging use, it works.
Question, would the historic tax credits be available for a condo conversion?
No, it is it's got to be an income producing property to apply and utilize those historic tax credits. So it does need to be restored and utilized as an income producing property. So multifamily is income producing, that would be an option. Again, the numbers do not work on that scenario either, but to provide high-end condos for sale, for purchase, you cannot utilize the historic tax credits.
It seems that a lot of the expense you're talking about of renovation is really remodeling it for a new use, and that renovation would be something you do to retain the existing uses. So I think that we're really having a problem with the nomenclature here between when you're talking about remodeling a building for another use, but you're using words like renovation to preserve a historic building. It really seems like if you're renovating to preserve a historic building, use would be retained as well.
Absolutely. Also, inside, you keep saying preservation, there are bathrooms in the offices. Obviously, the inside of the building will completely be altered.
When you walk into the lobby, that marble lobby, when you walk in, the two historic elevators, that will all be freshened up, but it will look almost exactly the way it is now. All the terracotta floors and all the hallways will be repurposed. But yes, when you go in through one of those doors, between that door and the window, they're going to, a lot of those walls in there are not original. Those offices on all those floors have been repurposed and redesigned and relaid out over the years.
What about the little storefronts? Are they historic preservation? Have they been there since the building was built?
Yes, we're going to restore the original retail
How did you put a big
floor.
dining room in?
I'm sorry?
How did you put a big dining room in? You won't be restoring the little building, the little businesses?
So some of that type space occurs further back into the building, but yes, as part of the historic preservation and the building itself, that has to be restored to the original standards. I made reference up there, the World Coffee, their entryway is a little different than everybody else's, and that's the other ones will have to be brought up to, or brought back to those.
Yeah, you got five of them like that?
Restaurant.
What's it gonna look like?
Right now, and again, we are still early in this design, but right now the programming is a few of the doors will be inoperable, so the storefront will be restored, but the doors would be inoperable.
Have you considered putting your restaurant in the back part and leaving those storefronts?
We have looked at a lot of different options. What's unique about this building, and a lot of you all have been in it, when you walk around outside and you look up at this grand building, you're like, wow. But once you go inside and start walking around on all those floors, that building gets actually very small inside. So in terms of being able to configure working functional space in there, addressing the existing elevators, keeping the existing hallways, stairwells, keeping all that untouched, you've got very limited space there to work with. And as part of this program, it is beneficial to the hotel operation to have a lobby to receive their customers and their guests, as well as have a restaurant and a bar to service those customers, as well as the locals to enjoy.
So as this project moves forward, there are multiple public hearings where your input is appreciated by city staff and these volunteers that are on the boards, as well as the council members that are elected. Those meetings, as Philip made reference, and I did earlier, we're looking at, potentially planning and zoning in, like December, probably early January, and city council in late January. So, and then there's a downtown commission meeting in, that would be associated with the sidewalk stuff, and that occurs, I think it's like December 12th or 15th, whatever that Friday is. The city has a website. As soon as this project is submitted in, the city has a website. If you look, it's a development map, and you can see every project for every large-scale project, level 2, level 3 project that has been proposed in the city of Asheville. It's on a Google map. You can look at it and click on each one of these. This project will be included once we finalize where things are and we submit it in for city staff to start looking at it. That will be available on there. The plans are available online. The staff reports are available online. And so you can, that's the best way to track as this moves forward. And really any project that's occurring in the city of Asheville. That's one of the great tools that they've provided to the citizens. I appreciate everyone taking